of 40 years, there have been 144 more women who have worked in front of and behind the camera on the Phantasm franchise.
Amazing, huh?
This documentary will take a historic look at these magnificent unsung women who have helped make one of the most influential horror franchises in the industry. Every person, men and women, who come to the table are influenced by others such as their aunt, mother, aunt, sister, grandmother, teachers, agents, fellow actors, colleagues, and as we walk this path together, we leave behind footprints on the hearts and minds of others. These are those footprints. Hi, Sam.
Hi, guys. Hi, Gigi. Hi, Reggie. This is so
Hi,
exciting.
how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
You look amazing.
Oh, amazing?
Amazing.
Is that all?
You look spectacular.
All right. Yeah,
Fantastic.
baby.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, that's just part of my nature, you know.
Sam, you were born in Fort Meade and growing up in New York in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. What was that like?
Well, oh God, that's such a three-part question. Okay, so both my parents were in the Army when I was born.
So you were Army brat?
Yeah. I was born in Maryland, and neither one of them liked each other much. I think it was just a random hookup. And not to be all whatever. She couldn't get an abortion in the Army.
Right.
She was forced to actually have me. They both left the Army and moved to Brooklyn when I was 1. So my mother didn't like my father. My father didn't really know if he liked my mother. And there I was. My mom, I don't really think wanted children. My mom had her own complicated relationship with her own mother and never resolved it, in my opinion.
We don't know anything about complicated relationships with moms, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that she replicated.
Was she a strong woman as well?
Oh, my mother. Oh,
Yeah.
God, yeah. And it's funny because I'll tell you about this later, but a lot of the movies, I've done a shitload of B movies, and not all of them as fine as the Phantasm franchise. I'm talking some low budget B movies. And I've played a lot of psychos and stuff. And not to say that I would play my mother, but I would play like the worst version of my mother, like the craziest version of my mom. So I would chew up the scenery with my crazy mother roles.
Yep.
But anyway.
Well, it's good to be able to have a character in your or persona in your life that you can
imitate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me, because I never had any acting real kind of classes. One's here, one's there, but I would just imitate people, like imitate types of roles.
Well, it's like putting on their personality, you know, putting on who they are.
Yeah, but that's awesome.
So then my parents, those two, they ended up divorcing when I was 5.
I was going to say, how old?
Yeah, 5. My dad left. My mom, again, just was not happy having a child. Right. Was very abusive. Threw me out when I was 12.
Oh my God.
I ended up coming back home for a brief amount of time and then leaving for good when I was 14.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm 53 now.
I relate to that one.
Everything I've done in my life is self-taught. The highest form of education I had was 9th grade. I graduated 9th grade. I went to like 2 months of 10th grade, dropped out. So here's what I always tell, like, and it gets me all misty. Like, I tell kids all the time, because I work at Penthouse. I deal with a lot of the young new girls coming up, models, centerfolds, adult stars, actresses. Whatever you want to do, don't even look at the fucking hand of cards life has given you. It's usually a fucked up hand. You have to make
if you don't
your
like
own.
it, change it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anything I ever wanted to do, like I wanted to be a radio host. So I got a job interning at a radio station for a year and a half and learned everything about it, pitched my own show to 97.1 back when it was talk radio, and got my own radio show. I wanted to write a column. I hit up LA Weekly and I was like, hey, I'm in the adult industry. I'd like to write a column, blah, blah, blah. I'd never written anything in my fucking life. They said, send some submissions. I did it. Great. Each one got better, right? I wanted to produce movies. An ex-boyfriend of mine gave me the ability to produce, whoa, there you go. Okay, Roger. He's like, that's right, I did. So I produced a line of movies called Busty Cops. Busty Cops 1, 2, 3. And the most famous part of this Busty Cops was, what's his name? I think it's Bret Michaels. had a brain aneurysm years ago watching Busty Cops, and went on Larry King and said that he was watching this like B movie, Busty Cops, had this brain aneurysm, and it's literally what almost killed him, but what kept him alive, because he didn't want his kids walking in the room and seeing like a pseudo porn on the TV and dad dead in bed. So I don't know. It was the most famous like quip we got about Busty Cops, and then of course Howard Stern promoted Busty Cops for us, and that was it broke the website. Like you know, Howard Stern's got a lot of pull. So and especially back then he was on terrestrial radio.
Yes.
So
pretty amazing.
So then I went off on my own after my mom threw me out. I became a model. I traveled the world. I got my first acting role.
I was going to ask you, I mean, you were not just a model, you know, we kind of gloss over that, but you were a Wilhelmina model. That was amazing. I mean, that's a high standard. I was a model when I left home at 14, and I was started out by modeling, and you know, I was approached by them, but I never got to be picked up, you know. I mean, they had some very strict contract rules and definitions.
That was an interesting time for me, because basically after my mom threw me out, I was underage, hanging out in nightclubs, Studio 54, etc. I was scouted by an Italian agent who owned a modeling agency in Milan, the #1 Italian modeling agency in Milan, and they had a model farm in Maryland.
A model farm?
A model farm where they would
that's what they called them.
Models.
I never got to go there.
A bunch of photographers that they would hire, and it was a week of doing photo shoots.
Very intense.
Yeah, they would make a portfolio for you.
Wow.
And then they would send you to Europe.
Yeah.
So these particular people, I don't know if they had the best intentions, but in my particular case, they made my portfolio, sent me to Milan to be raped. It was that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like, so you were sent into a model pensione where you were expected to stay, and you would come home at night and there would be Italian playboys sitting at your kitchen table to take you to dinner. All friends of the owner of the agency.
Wow.
So, something happened with the editor of a huge Italian magazine, and because I've got a big fucking mouth and I'm not going to roll over and just be raped in Milan and just be like, oh, hey, this is such a great time.
Some of us do know how to say no, right?
Wow.
So they sent me home, like literally fucking pulled me out of bed in the middle of the night, sent me on a fucking plane, get the fuck out of here.
Wow.
So eventually I found my way to Wilhelmina.
Right.
So they were like, you poor thing, blah, blah, blah. They're asshole creeps. We have you. So they sent me back to Europe. I became a splash in Paris. Like literally, I stepped off the plane. No, this is also someone growing up whose mom told me that I was ugly, unwanted.
Right.
I was dorky. I was gawky. I was gangly. I was every weird adjective for someone that was like
spit out of your mouth.
Yeah, that was not come into their own.
Right.
So I never really thought I could be a model. I actually thought it was a huge joke, and I just kept waiting for.
Well, back then, you're 5'9", right?
Yeah.
So back then, 5'9" was considered tall for a model, and you that was like our minimum requirement to be 5'9".
Yeah, that's the minimum. But there were girls that were like 5'11" and stuff.
Yeah.
So I fell into.
Now they're like 6 foot tall.
Oh, they're massive. But I fell into this modeling thing, and I kept thinking to myself, well, one day these guys are gonna wake the fuck up and realize they took the wrong girl. So like I was always a foot in, a foot out. I didn't really believe I belonged there. I was just a little shit when I was younger.
Did you feel like you were someone who was going to find you out and?
No, I just thought that one day I'd show up on set and the art director would turn to the photographer and go, this girl.
Who is this?
This girl's disgusting. What the fuck did we hire her for? Because that's really. You know, all the abuse from my childhood was really what was on the inside. And I didn't see what the people saw on the outside. So I kept waiting for the people on the outside to realize who it was on the inside.
And exactly where you're coming from.
Right. So, you know, I went to Europe, became a huge splash, became a top model. I was the Jordache girl. Here's something.
Yep.
Wow.
In 1984, if you guys remember, in Los Angeles, we had the Summer Olympic Games.
Yes.
Jordache was a sponsor
Yes.
of those Olympic Games.
Wow,
Yep.
yeah.
And I had billboards outside of every Olympic event in
Oh,
Los
that's
Angeles.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
me and this guy
awesome.
named
What was it?
Philip.
What was it
Wow.
like the first time you saw your
I never
first
actually
billboard?
saw I saw billboards of myself in Japan when I ended up going there, but not the ones in LA. But Jordache sent me photos of the billboards. You know, a photo isn't the same thing, but
No.
still, it's like, it was Outdoor Organic, I think was the name of the billboard company, which is like a big billboard company.
Sure.
So,
That's amazing.
so
That's
like,
amazing.
Did you feel like, how did you, what feelings did that elicit from you the first time, and first time you saw it in Japan, but then also knowing that, you know, you finally got your face all over LA?
well, I'll tell you, like,
Or was
sort
it
of
regional?
the moment for me was after, like, Wilhelmina picked me up and then sent me back to Europe.
Right.
I get off the plane in Paris. That's the first place they sent me. Oh, and by the way, when I became a huge top model, the Italians came sniffing around, wanting to pony up on their contract they had me under.
Yeah.
And Wilhelmina told them to go fuck themselves. But that's a whole other thing. But anyway, so they sent me to Paris. I got off the plane. I believe it was the first time I ever flew totally far away, like Europe. I was all wired. I didn't sleep. I was in a little teeny fucking economy seat. I get there, totally wired. Drop my bags at some pensione. No, that's the Italian version. At some apartment in Paris. They had somebody pick me up, drop my shit, brought me into the agency, and they're like, "We have 3 go-sees for you today." I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay, that's cool." One was the cover of a magazine, one was a stocking campaign, and one was French Elle. All 3 of them, I came home, back to the agency, walking with the lady who was taking me around. And they're like, you got it, all standing on a little balcony. And I'm like, who are they talking to? They're like, you got it. I'm like, what did I get? They're like, all of them. And I'm like, all of them?
Oh, wow.
Wait, what? And I didn't even realize how big these jobs were. I was just like, I got these 3 jobs.
Yeah.
So I was so excited that I had called my dad, because we had come together, like we were estranged for a long time. But then, of course, once I had a reputable career to be proud of, then he was around, kind of. Same with my mother.
Yeah.
So I had told him, like, oh my God, I got these jobs, Dad, and blah, blah. And his response was like, don't get excited. It's not like you're a household name like some chick that was popular.
I know
at the
exactly.
time. And I was
I
like,
get that exact same thing.
and I was like, oh, wow, I thought you'd kind of be proud and excited that, like, this is something that I could maybe do.
Yeah.
That's an unresolved relationship. My mother is an unresolved relationship. I have 0 relationship with my mother and my father still to this day. It's been on and off little parts through my life.
Sure.
It's when things are good that they're proud of, they're in.
Yeah.
When things are shit and nothing's going on, they're out.
Yep.
And then they're in, and then they're out. And then I made the conscious decision that I was like, fuck all of you, you're gone.
You can't
I can't
do
have
that
fair
to me.
weather parents, dude.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I just can't. That's what friends are for. That's what other people are for. Your family are supposed to be in forever.
Do you have someone in your life that really filled that role model as a parental role model?
What I did was I consciously went about finding surrogate parents.
Yeah.
All over the place. I have
can dig
surrogate
it.
parents. I have surrogate grandparents. I have my Uncle Mike, who's my fake Uncle Mike, and every time I enter, he's the closest family to me, and this asshole isn't even fucking related to me.
Yeah.
So, and he lives in LA. He has been by my side since I was a teenager. He owned a pizza parlor in New York. He used to feed me for free when I was poor and modeling and stuff. Still to this day, my Uncle Mike. Oh, and I made him Uncle Mike back then so he wouldn't want to fuck me, because who wants to fuck
I can
a
dig
chick
it. I can dig
that's
it.
calling you uncle?
That's right.
Yes.
That was my
Yep.
defense mechanism to, keep guys away. not to hit on me or
Sure.
not to like, you know, anything like, oh, you're
that's a
like
boundary.
my uncle. And it's like, oh shit, I'm uncle status. It's like being like in the friend zone. It's
I was going to say relegated to the friend zone or the brother zone.
It's a good way to dodge chauvinism.
Yes.
I mean, it really is, you know.
So, you know, I always tell people, and they're like, is that really your uncle? I'm like, no, that's my fake uncle. But he's closer to me than any real uncle I have. So.
What was the number one most important thing that you took away from Wilhelmina?
Oh God, well, how about this? I'd been modeling probably for 2 years. So with them, it was probably like 15, and by the time I settled back in New York with them, like 15 and 16. No one told me about taxes.
Oh God.
Nobody told me about taxes.
So they didn't teach you the business of it.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a lady named Fran who was in charge of accounting because Wilhelmina had already died by the time I ended up there. She had like literally just died. And then Fran was running Fran was like part owner or like whatever she was. But she was the lady who I would collect my checks from.
She started out as a model and she was an investor and then she became part owner. Yeah.
Fran? Mm-hmm. Oh wow. Okay. I had no idea. So I would pick up my checks. Sometimes they'd be $15,000. I'm a kid picking up a check for 1 week's of work for $15,000, and no one said, you know, hey, by the way, you know, there's quarterly taxes, there's taxes, there's things that you should do. Yeah. And I literally had no concept of money. I grew up poor, but, you know, just all of a sudden, like, oh, I can make this money. So I thought, A, it would be like that forever. Yeah. B, I had all these friends that needed help. So I was literally, oh, you need $5,000? Yeah, sure. I have like 20 in my bank. Here you go. Yeah, don't worry about it. Give it to me whenever. Like,
it's almost like we wrote the same book.
I like would give money away. I'd take friends on trips, Fire Island, the Hamptons, here, there, everywhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah, rent planes, like, what? Like I was a total baller. And the one thing that my dad told me that I never listened to, and I should have. Okay, my dad told me one thing that I didn't listen to, and my mom told me one thing I didn't listen to. My dad told me that I should save 50 cents from every dollar. Yeah. Cut. My dad told me that I should save 50 cents from every dollar I make. Right. And put it away for my retirement at like 16. So I was like, oh yeah, okay. So my mother told me that in life, I need to keep my legs and my mouth shut, which I have diligently gone out of my way to do the opposite my whole life. Legs and mouth wide open. Sorry.
So,
no
apologies.
I was going to say, I can dig it.
No apologies.
Banged real ones, banged fake ones on film.
Was it a culture shock to go from modeling to filmmaking, or did you? No. Was that a natural progression?
Okay, so I was modeling in England at the time, and I had wanted to switch gears and become an actor, and I don't know how I got my way into the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, but I fucking got my way. I auditioned and they let me take classes. So I was taking a speech class. So like how to roll your
articulate
R's. And, I still can't do all that shit. And there was a guy in the class that spotted me and asked me to audition for a film, and it was Graham Chapman from Monty Python, and the film was a movie he wrote and directed that Graham Chapman, he produced it. He helped put up the money. Not Terry Gilliam. Oh fuck, what was his name? Julian Doyle. Jesus Christ. God, sorry, Julian. Okay, so Julian Doyle wrote it, directed it, and edited it, and he was the editor of all the Monty Python stuff.
Wow.
So
that's fantastic.
So then Graham Chapman got involved as, helping his pet project. And it was a serious movie about drug addicts in an international drug rehab center in England. Mm-hmm. And it was a horror movie, like a scared straight horror movie, right? And it had an international cast of actors from all over the world, Canada, here, and I was the only, quote, American. And back then, getting a work visa in England was just as fucking hard as it is fucking now.
Yeah, sure.
And the permit people didn't give me my permit right away, and then the union didn't want to give me like a union card to do that film. So then the permit people Margaret Thatcher signed my permit, right? So I got the permit, and then the union people didn't want to still let me do the movie. We were already on set. So they froze the set, and they sent representatives down and had a vote to see if everybody wanted to work with me.
Wow.
It was like a major fucking thing.
Really?
Everybody said yes. They also asked the cast that weren't there yet, so they said no because I didn't know who the fuck I was. But the cast that was there, they said yes. The votes outweighed. They let me stay. My really great friend on the set was Jo Wood, Ron Wood's wife. So Ron Wood from the Rolling Stones would come down every weekend with the kids. It was like such a crazy
surreal,
thing.
Right?
So when they finally said, yes, you have the role, the first day of filming, I got lockjaw. Like I was so freaked out that like I couldn't, like the next day, and I had all these scenes the next day. So they had an acupuncturist come to the set and put needles all in my head.
Oh man.
So it was like this whole big thing.
Wow.
And then I did this movie. And I'd never fucking done a movie before. I was so afraid everyone else had acted. I'd never acted before. And it's so weird seeing me now. Also, you hear my voice, right?
Yeah.
So I have like hearing issues. I'm a little deaf in both my ears, more in one ear than the other ear. It wasn't until I started doing radio that I could control and I could hear my tone of my voice.
Right.
All of my movies that I did before I started doing radio, I'm awful because I'm flat monotone. I can't hear my voice. I can't tell.
You can't modulate.
I can't modulate or like change inflection.
Fluctuate, yeah.
So in Phantasm, oh, Reg, it's all like this. I like all of, and then also I think in Phantasm, didn't we lose a whole bunch of sound? And I had to dub all the shit in the car again, and I had to dub more shit. I think I had to dub the shit outside, not shit, sorry. The stuff, the dialogue outside of the house that we took the chainsaw to get in.
Right.
Like all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So then you're taking somebody that doesn't know how to act, who can't control their voice, and then have them do an ADR session for the first time that they've never done. And that was like my big, like Phantasm was my big break out of like all the.
Yeah, because it was all there, right?
How did your audition?
So after the Monty Python thing, I left England. I came back to LA. I'm now going to be an actress. I stopped modeling. I went to work as a secretary at a modeling agency because I don't have an ego. I started going on auditions. I got one movie called Sunny Boy, and I think I got another movie, and then I got Phantasm. So Phantasm was my third film.
Wow.
It was my third film as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's
Serious,
right.
yeah. It was Jim the World's Greatest.
Right.
And then Kenny and Company.
Right.
Where I played a teacher.
Right.
I played Don's teacher that he remembered that he really dug when he was in junior high school.
Oh my God.
And he even gave me the name of his teacher.
Oh my God.
So it was really cool because I just got to be very cool with the kids, you know.
Right.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great.
How did your audition come about with Don Coscarelli?
Oh my God. So this is, okay, so a lot of times when you get a script, it'll have a description of a character, and normally your agent sends you out on the description that it writes.
Right.
So in the script, Alchemy was written as a blonde with big breasts.
Yeah.
Okay? Sexy, blonde, big-breasted, Alchemy.
Right.
So, okay, so I'm looking at this script and I'm like, okay, I don't even understand what any of this is or means. I don't even understand this movie.
Why
I never saw
am
the
I
first
here?
one. I'm like, no, it wasn't even before I went there. Just like when you get the script and you get your sides and you're looking at it, I'm like,
why are they sending me on this?
I'm like, I'm not even right for this role. Oh my God, okay. So I never saw the first movie. I didn't understand the iconic like meaning of stepping into this kind of a character. I was just like a young shit. And I remember
How old were you when you did Phantasm?
It was 31 years ago, and I'm 53. What's the math? Anybody?
22.
21, 22.
There I was. There you go. Yeah. Okay. So I was living in Beverly Glen, and I was at the time getting around on a moped. I was like scooting around town, and I ended up having a moped accident on my way to that audition.
Wow.
It was either that or my car broke down. One or the other. There's something there. I had one big horrible thing around that same time for a big audition where I had a moped accident and then my car broke down. So it's either one of those. Forgive me, it's 31 years ago. I smoke a lot of weed. So,
well, just good memory, just short.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I was late to my audition. I was frazzled because, I think the car did break down. Yeah. I don't think I had money, and I think I had to fucking walk, and it was like one of those fucking awful things that you show up and you're all drenched or irritated. Yeah. And I'm the type of person that when I'm irritated, I can't hide it.
Plus, you're on a go-see. You're on a go-see for, for something that you know that you're not the.
So like the whole thing was a complete fucking waste of my time. Yeah. Like, so I'm like, so I walk in. I'm like the last person. My appointment was hours before, whatever. So I do the audition, and maybe because I had the attitude, I was irritated, and I was just like throwing it away. Sassy. Because like, this isn't even the fucking right thing for me. Stupid agents. So like, John was like, oh yeah, okay, great. That's good. Blah, 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 blah. He had me do it a couple more times, and I'm like, yeah, okay, thanks, buddy. So I leave the audition. I'm like, oh God, that was a fucking waste of time. And I get a call. There's a call back, and I'm like,
for what?
Where'd this come from?
I'm like, what? Okay.
I'm not bleaching my hair, and I'm not getting a boob job.
So I don't know if there was like one more callback before I ended up working with you, because one of my callbacks I had to do a scene with you on a sound stage.
Okay.
And he wanted to see how our chemistry was going to be.
Right.
But before that, I think I did have one more callback, and I walked in, and I remember I think I was in a waiting room at this point with a bunch of blondes and big boobs and myself. So now I'm really like, okay, this is ridiculous. And I remember walking in there and going, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you wasting my time? I'm clearly not what you're looking for. I'm not what's written. And I remember him telling me, well, sometimes, I think what he said was when he wrote the script, he didn't have any idea in his mind of what he wanted, but the ideal of a sexy alchemy was the blonde, big boobed, whatever. Right. And it wasn't until I walked in the door that he literally knew it was me. Yeah. And it was my attitude. It was whatever I brought to the table.
Yeah, see, that's what it was. Right. When you got in his face and went, look, man, that was basically your audition.
Yeah, but I had no boobs. I mean, I have boobs now, but I mean, back then I had no boobs, and I was like, this is wrong. I'm not right. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like he basically told me I redefined what his vision of sexy was for that particular character, and that he knew when I walked in, if he could get me there, because again, I don't think my acting was that great, but if he could get me there and bring out that sassy whatever he saw in me, that would be alchemy.
Well, and then what's great about it, if you look up phantasm, the word phantasm in the dictionary, it means things that you're seeing that you're not sure if you're seeing it or not.
Right.
Right. The visions or is it real or not
is it
real?
Not? Right.
And when you watch the movies, that's exactly where it's at, because he took people, normal people, like I'm an ice cream man, and I got a couple of friends. One's basically a kid, and then Jody is like the very kind of smart older brother,
right?
And we hook up together and go through this phantasmic adventure. So I mean, that's the whole principle of phantasm,
right? So I still don't understand the movie, guys. Like all these years later, like
congratulations, you're in the majority.
I mean, like
it's phantasm.
I know, but the Tall Man, like
he's an evil mortician from another dimension.
I get that.
And another planet.
But then how did he get in through the
space gates?
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's why.
Did we ever see him go through the space gates?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which one? What number?
4 and 5.
Okay, well, see, I didn't see 4 and 5.
And we also see him with a bunch of hymns.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
When was that? That was 4?
5.
Was that 4? 5.
So, well,
I need to catch
What
up
was
on my Phantasm.
Yeah,
history.
let's
I'm
get the box
sorry.
set. There's
No,
some,
I'm like after the third one where I'm not in because they use the end of the one movie to
Right,
start
to
the
start
next
the
movie.
next one.
one.
So I
yeah.
remember my agent had called me and said, "Hey, listen, you did this movie Phantasm years ago. Well, they're gonna do a 3, so and they just paid me like a little flat rate to use,
yeah,
to use that that
the
last
buyout.
scene,
Yeah.
a buyout from that scene to
Yeah.
start the movie. So beyond the 3, I haven't really seen that.
So what was it like when you first started working with Reggie and doing your pseudo sex scene? And,
Oh my God. Okay, so we had to have. I just remember like little snippets because again, the weed and the ears. But we had to do like a rehearsal, not on the set, like way before we actually filmed.
Right.
Because I think Don had it written as such, but not to say there was an age disparity between you and I, but here's young hot girl, a little bit older man, balding-ish,
Right.
like what was like I think he
What was the
wanted
attraction?
to like gel what the thing was.
Yeah.
And I remember it was all about that head. And I remember in our rehearsal, I think I like slapped your head and was like kissing and loving on it. And Don was like, "Oh my God, yes."
Yeah,
so it's like,
I like
yeah.
that.
So we one thing that had concerned me, oh my God, 2 things that had concerned me, was nudity. Because at the time, so I'm a pen-ass pet.
well, there was
center
always
girl.
a standard
Now,
for that.
Yeah.
But I didn't even care about like if you did nudity in a film, you'll never work again. Like that never even crossed my mind. But just because I'd never been nude in a film, so and I had like real agents and they didn't want me to be taken advantage of, and I didn't want to be taken advantage of, and I didn't have boobs, so it wasn't.
Did
like
you have a closed set?
Yeah, we had a closed set.
Yeah.
So here was my requirements. I had 2 requirements. 1, my sex scene, I had to wear underwear. So I didn't want my bush being seen or my butt being seen.
Right.
So we had worked out this thing where I mount you, Reg. I like get on top of you and I'm sitting on top of you, and you'll see me mime pulling my underwear over and sitting.
Yeah.
So that was to satisfy, like that's
there
how
you go.
we're doing it.
Yeah.
Even though I have underwear on.
Yeah.
And it was just like a really quick kind of thing, like unless you're really paying attention, you'd never know. And then I also think the Ride 'em Cowboy thing was something that we improvised and wasn't necessarily written. I don't
think it was.
I don't think it, that was just all born out of our like crazy chemistry.
Actors calls.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what was cool about always working with Don. He gives you the parameters of the scene. You read it, and he lets you extrapolate.
Yep.
And that's why the scenes and the characters are so real, and full of such humanity. It's really great.
Was there ever a historic moment on set when you go, this is interesting?
Okay, wait. Before that, just to wrap up the sex scene, the lady that you were with at the time, not this beautiful lady, but the last beautiful lady.
Oh, okay.
We had a closed set when we were actually filming, and she was on set, but not on our set, but outside our set.
Sure.
So she was outside of our closed door.
Yeah.
And it always was in the back of my head, like, oh my God, Reggie's girl is right outside, and don't make too much noise, and don't scream too loud, and I was not a veteran of the fake sex scene, so I wanted to be very respectful to her, and So, and then also the other thing that I had a parameter about that I did not want anywhere, like when you film it, you have to please respect my wishes. So the scene on the slab so first of all, I was dating James LeGros when we were making that movie.
No way.
And then when we stopped making that movie, I stopped dating James LeGros. I'm sorry, James. And I started dating...
On-set romance, right?
Yeah, and I started dating Emilio Estevez.
Ah.
I know, dude. Like,
Joe is
two great guys.
Joe is a really good friend of ours, so...
Yeah.
So, I broke up with James. He didn't take it very well. I was living with my Uncle Mike on Beverly Glen. I wasn't very mature about breakups back in the day. I either would just disappear or just tell people I was a lesbian. It was like one or the other. I didn't know how to get, I couldn't hurt people's feelings.
Not know how to
let
exit
them down.
left.
No. I just didn't want to hurt people. I didn't realize just leaving is more hurtful. So, we're done. Everything's done. The movie's done. And then I get a call that we had to do a reshoot.
Oh no.
Of that scene where James walks in with a flamethrower and I'm on the slab and he walks around the slab looking for like the dwarves or whatever the fuck he was looking for. So I remember being, oh my God, I'm gonna be naked now in front of James. And that's when I had that Y incision, the prosthetics on my chest. So
the autopsy stuff.
Yep, the autopsy thing. Yeah. So I remember so they do all the prosthetic stuff. You know, it was a little weird between me and James, obviously, but we're professionals, blah, blah, blah. We're doing like a run through. Sam, get on the slab. I'm on the slab. I think I might have had a ticker thing on my toe. I'm not even sure if I did or not.
A toe tag?
Yeah, I feel like I did. But then I was like, hey, is there a sheet? Like, you know, for the bottom half of me, because don't dead people have sheets over them?
Yeah.
You know, and you could see, and I think Don was like, yeah, no, there's no sheets. There's no sheets in the morgue. And I'm like, really?
Ooh.
So he's like, don't worry. And I go, okay, but I don't want you to see my vagina hair. And he's like, oh yeah, no, don't worry. So I'm like, okay. So I'm laying there and I see a camera. There's a camera up there. So I'm like, is that, hey guys, are you gonna see my vagina hair? And they're like, no, we're not gonna see any vagina hair. And I'm like, okay. So then they're doing a run through and it's on a tracking dolly shot. So here's the slab I'm laying on and the tracking dolly is going like right on the side of my body. So you can see like my nipple and then my stomach and then a tuft of vagina hair. And then, so I'm like, and it's going by and I'm like, hey guys, you're not seeing vagina hair, right? Like I've asked 100 times. No. Okay, so I'm thinking movie magic. This is great. I don't know how this shit works. Now I know how this shit works. And if you can see a camera, it can see you.
Right.
If your vagina can see the camera can see your vagina.
Yes.
So, cut to now I'm dating Bobby Carradine, who was in Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes.
Okay. Whose daughter is in Handmaid's Tale and fan-fucking-tastic in it.
Wow.
But I digress. So anyway, I brought that up because she was also at the premiere at the Pacific Theater on Hollywood Boulevard when Phantasm 2 premiered.
Yeah, we don't even have 6 degrees of separation in Phantasm. It's more like 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So I'm now at the premiere with Bobby Carradine, his brother Michael Bowen, another actor, and his daughter Ever Carradine. And we're all sitting there in the middle of the movie theater. It's packed theater. My first movie that's like, you know, with a Hollywood premiere. They had press. They had a hearse stuffing contest.
Yes, I remember
outside.
that.
Yeah. It was like, it was huge, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like feeling good. This is like my movie, not my movie, but like I'm in this movie. It starts, people are like hooting, hollering. It's like the Phantasm fans, everything's great, blah, blah, blah. You know, the movie's going along. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. What? I see one shot, I think it was like down and then across and all I couldn't even control myself. I went, oh my God! Really loud in the movie theater and everyone started laughing. And I was like, are you fucking kidding? So there's little Ever and I'm like, oh my God. And I looked to my boyfriend, I'm like, I didn't know, there was my vagina. Like I was so horrified that and it was like fleeting, dude. Like I'm making a bigger deal about it, but on a big screen.
But for you it is.
A massive screen.
Yeah, sure. The 50-foot tall vagina.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. So, you know, I don't know if they were just humoring me or they had best intentions to never show the vagina, but in the end, like, I learned a lesson. If you don't want it seen, don't put it out there.
Right.
Period. End of story.
That's
it's
exactly
the same to
it.
the kids with the sex tapes. Don't make fucking sex tapes unless you want it seen, because then it'll get out.
Not just the kids, it's the
Okay,
stupid
you
grown-ups.
old dirty old men too.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, no, it's Judge Milian always says, say it, regret it, or write it, forget it, say it, regret it.
Yeah.
Because you put it out there, and it's like, it's there forever.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah.
In film and theater and TV, was there an influential female other than yourself that kind of became a source for you, for motivating or
I
not
mean,
motivating?
I hosted a network morning talk show in 2001 called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Right.
And it was on NBC following the
remember
Today
that.
Show, and it was on for a year.
Well, it started out as a
I
book.
remember that.
I started out with Sybil Shepherd, and
Right.
they replaced her with 5 hosts.
Wow.
And I was one of the 5: Dr. Drew, Christina Ferrari, Bo Griffin, and Rondell Sheridan.
Wow.
So I would have to say that Christina Ferrari is definitely, I haven't spoken to her in many years, but I know that if I saw her right now, it would be as if no time has passed.
Sure.
She was very instrumental in making me a born-again Christian. So half of me is Jewish, and then half of me is a born-again Christian.
Wow.
And I know it doesn't make any sense at all, but it makes sense to me.
Sure.
She, when we filmed Mars Venus, there was 8 different segments in each show, and we would have different guests on. So one person would come on and talk about raising children, one person would come on and talk about dating, one person would come on
Right.
and talk about astrology, one person would, and in matchups of men and women.
Right.
So anything that had tarot or anything of
Some
like
supernatural.
satanic-y,
Yeah.
which is what born again, you cannot, you have to have faith in God that God knows what's good for you, and not like you looking at tarot cards looking for
Right.
answers. The answer should come from God.
Right.
So I was very open to tarot and numerology and all these things, like learning all about myself, and she really worked on me.
Wow.
And by the time I was done with that TV show, I literally was like, I haven't had anybody do a tarot reading on me. I don't want to, whatever that is, it's bullshit. Because I do know, at 53 years old, and I've known this for a while, I have faith in what's supposed to be. I don't want a deck of cards giving me false hope or promises,
Sure.
or someone picking up psychically my unhappiness
Vibe.
and then
Crystal
and
balls
then say your life's gonna be shit. It's like, no, my life is gonna be great because I'm gonna make my life great.
Because you make it what it is.
I'm in
Right.
charge, right?
Right. And I don't need to look outside for answers, when the answers are inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Is there
So she was very supportive and brought me back to a spiritual place that I had not had.
Is there a marked difference in how women are treated, paid, or billed character-wise in the industry versus when you started versus nowadays?
Say that again.
Are women treated differently as far as equal pay and
Jesus. Well,
respect
I mean,
on set and
don't
fighting
know,
for your billing? When back then
Right.
when you started versus now, have you seen any changes?
Here's the difference between back then and now. I don't do a ton of acting now, and back then I had major agents, and now I self-represent myself.
Right.
So back then, nothing really happened to me because I was under the protection of agents. Nobody
So it
would
would
ever
come
do
down
anything.
on you like
yeah,
bricks.
Of course.
Yeah.
I was
Right?
going to say that,
Yeah.
and that's when I met, Gigi. Because, I was talking to a friend of mine, Michael Berryman.
Yeah.
Phillips Have Eyes. And
Yeah.
a few other things. And he was going, it was just, it was a regular conversation. He was going, I was talking about getting gigs, and how I didn't really have any representation or whatever.
And promoting Phantasm 3 and like that.
Yeah, and promoting Phantasm 3. And so he said, well, hey, I know this, I think he said chick.
Yeah, that would be Michael.
Hey, we are chicks. We're broads.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm a spooky chick.
And and her name is Gigi. And I went, oh, okay. And he goes, yeah. He says, would you, maybe I could get her, to come to your, premiere
Screening.
screening of Phantasm 3. Was
Right.
it 3? And I said, hey, that sounds great. And so he gave me Gigi's number, and I called, and I said, hey, this is Reggie Bannister. You don't know me, but...
She's like, yes, I do.
Hey. And the funny thing is, I was renting from Chrissy Nichols at the time.
Oh my God, that's so
funny. But it was interesting because I'm standing in the living room, and I'm like, oh yes, I'm familiar with your work.
That's so great.
Then he goes, would you like to come to a screening? Yes, that'd be wonderful. Could I bring a guest with me? Sure. So I brought Elizabeth Brooks from The Howling because she was another client of mine, and so we went to see it. And the first person we meet is Angus Scrimm, and he had a cold, so he didn't want to shake hands.
He wouldn't shake hands.
Yes,
If he had a
it's
cold,
like,
he would not
yeah,
shake
yeah.
hands.
Yeah, and he's like, but do you know where Reggie is? He goes, oh, I don't know. He's around here somewhere. And so I look out, and Elizabeth goes, how are you going to find this guy? And I went, okay, first of all.
Did she not know what he looked like?
So first of all, I said, all we have to do is first of all, he's pretty distinctive looking, so that's pretty easy. But secondly, all we have to do is find the largest crowd and the dead center of it. That I guarantee you that will be Reggie. And that's what happened. That's how we met. And so I worked my way in, and we shook hands, and I felt like someone reached in and grabbed my soul, and he thought I had a big stick up my ass.
Really?
Because I was in the Hollywood mode, Hollywood
yeah.
agent mode. And so I proceeded to educate him about the business of filmmaking and appearances and like that. And he sort of opened the door and gave me permission to let people in, because that's really what he was finding is that I was like shut off because I needed protection, and that's how I went into my business mode. And it was the 90s. It was like 1993 when we met, or 94 when we met. And so in the 90s, if you were a businesswoman, it was all about being big and bad and bold.
Yeah.
And head bitch in charge, baby. HBIC.
Yeah.
And
I still think it's like that a little bit. I mean, but you have to be careful just because the rights of men, the rights of women, being PC, not stepping over lines,
Yeah, and there's also the thing about, do you, who can you trust? And I personally just didn't ever trust anybody, or trust but verify, which is something I learned in the Army.
Right.
Yep. And so I just trust but get it in writing.
Right.
And so that's kind of something I've always picked up, and that's one of the things I talk with Reggie about. How do you feel like the industry has either changed either positively or negatively, modeling and film? Since we started.
Well, I mean,
or is it just same day or different days?
I mean, I think the political climate of today has changed how women are treated on sets, in the workplace. I think back in our era, even though I said earlier I had agents that looked out after me.
Right.
I was young. I never really came across anybody doing anything too inappropriate on a set. And my personal life and the celebs and stars around Hollywood, that's a different story.
Whole other story.
Totally different story. But I do have a big mouth, and I do know how to say no.
Yeah.
And I do know how to run.
Yeah.
I do know how to escape and get away. And that's all I'll say.
Yeah.
So I think every person that's a female in this town has had some experience.
Yep. Some close encounter
with some type of a celeb, producer, director, a person above them, decision maker.
Sometimes it's just a cast or
casting director,
a cast member,
or cast member. I mean, the most I ever had that on set to where I was like, whoa, okay. I did a movie called. It was called The Other Man, but then it was called Sexual Malice. So you know, sometimes movies
Yeah,
have
they-
two names.
working
right?
title
The
and
working
final
title.
title.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the director, really great guy. I had a sex scene with the deceased Eddie Albert Jr., who's
Oh.
such a wonder.
Yeah.
Both him and his
Yeah.
very sad. Anyway, he and I had a sex scene, and he was, you know, a respectable actor, not really doing a ton of sex scenes. And this was probably, I don't know, maybe my third or fourth one as a, you know, actress, whatever. So the director had very specific directions on how he wanted the sex scene to unfold, and he communicated it to me and Eddie, and me and Eddie were basically like, we're not gonna do any of that shit, right? Let's just do our own thing. So we're gonna start like this, and we worked it out what I felt comfortable with and what he felt comfortable with.
Right.
So we started, and I remember the director like at one point cut, and he's like, no, guys, I want you to do it like this. And he literally came onto the set and kind of
Show you.
got on top of me a little bit
Wow.
to show Eddie what he wanted him to do. I didn't take it that he was being inappropriate.
Yeah.
I just took it like, I
But
mean,
he-
I think all you
made
had
you
to do was
feel
tell
like
the
you
guy,
weren't there.
but
Yeah.
but then again, I know that we were not necessarily listening to direction.
Yeah.
So perhaps he was frustrated and was like, you know, sometimes
Reining
on
it in.
my sets,
Yeah.
if I communicate something and someone doesn't do it right the first time, I will
Right.
literally go and do it for them, or
Yeah.
I'll go and show them how to do it, or, you know.
Well,
So-
sometimes you have to. I mean,
Right,
It's called
but-
directing.
But I mean, like, to jump into it, you know, a
Yeah.
fake sex scene is
Yeah.
a little bit,
Oh no, I know.
Yeah.
It's a
like,
little
let,
bit-
Let me have a
I
chance
agree.
at that.
you know, a
Yeah.
little bit too far.
Yeah.
But it didn't bother me then. It's not something that really bothers me now. Would that happen today? Probably not. Not
Probably
with the
not. I
climate
mean,
of the Me Too's and
they're so strict
shit.
about it. I mean, you have to wear the sock, you know, if you're a man, and you have
yeah.
to wear the, what do they call it, the
when
cooch patch or something like that.
well,
It's
I
the
would
patch.
use they have 3x5 size band-aids, 3-inch by 5-inch band-aids.
Mhm.
So I would tape them together. So I'd open one up, and the sticky part I'd affix
Sure.
to the sticky part, and I'd just make a long like pad
Yeah.
that would start above my hair, and I'd rope it all the way,
All the way
around,
around.
past my cheeks,
Yeah.
up to the top of my butt,
Sure.
because I didn't want my ass opening up and
Right.
seeing my asshole
Right.
anywhere, shape, form.
Right.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
So I roped that whole fucking thing off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to do what you got to do. I mean,
Yeah.
we had one with Carney's that a little no budget thing, and the actress decided we had it all worked out. She was going to do a topless scene, and then she arrives on set and she's all taped up instead. And so every time we went to go to shoot it, then it started crackling. So it was like,
Oh my god.
so we had to get around that. So we just cut the sound out for that one. So, but so yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I just,
Totally
you know,
get that,
I don't
yeah.
know. I think that there's more avenues to report indiscretions on set these
Yeah.
days. There's more hall monitors per se.
Yeah.
There's more people aware of the potential pitfalls that actors and
Plus,
young women
it's
face.
sort of like, don't you feel like that we've been sort of given permission finally to just kind of look? It's okay to say something, and it's okay
Yes.
to say no.
Yes.
And
But see,
and
we
by the
have-
way, think about your branding and whether you want this as part of
Right.
your branding.
Right. And but
You
we
know?
have two different things happening. You know, women speaking up for themselves, but then we're in the culture of Donald Trump,
Yeah.
where, you know, he's
Right.
saying it's okay to grab chicks by the pussy, and
Yeah.
he's saying it's okay to call women disrespectful names, and he says it's okay to be racist and homophobic and
Right.
xenophobic and sexist and all the rest
Exactly.
of the stuff. So that gives guys like the Jeffrey
It
Epsteins of the world
emboldens them.
Yep.
permission
Yep.
to misbe fucking have.
Well, I couldn't
That's
believe
absolutely
that. I
right.
mean, some
You
of
know?
the
Yep.
huge moguls that are being brought down at this point. You
And
know,
I mean,
because of
our
it.
kids, I don't have any kids, but your kids, your fucking kids are watching this. They're
And that was-
taking
that was
they're
my
taking the
standing
tune
role.
from press conferences
Yeah.
and
Yep.
disrespectful talk.
Yeah.
And they're going out and they're replicating
Mimicking.
that fucking behavior in school grounds and
Yeah.
schoolyards and
Yep.
Because
in
they
college
think that's
campuses.
that's
and stuff.
Yeah,
the
well, it's
adult
okay.
way to act,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But even like the college kids, well, fuck, Donald Trump says it's fine, or
Yeah.
whoever. I cannot
exactly.
stand that guy. So
Yeah, no,
hopefully by the time
we're
this thing
there
comes
with you.
out, bye, bitch, you're gone. See ya. I'd take a fucking,
See ya.
I'd take a monkey over him. Anything, anything.
Well, at least monkeys are nice.
Thank you.
Anyway, tell us about your projects that you're working on now. What are you doing these days?
So, I was a Penthouse pet in June of 1993, and I appeared on, I think, 19 covers of Penthouse internationally and domestically.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
14 of them in other countries.
It's amazing.
And the rest of them here in America.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you. So I have a special place in my heart for Penthouse.
Sure.
It's funny, no matter how many credits I have to my name as a producer, an actor, this, that, if I'm ever on a Nightline or any type of TV show or talk show, you can guarantee your sweet ass, they don't say star of Phantasm 2.
No, they don't.
No, they say Penthouse Pet,
Right.
and then actor, and then, or producer, but it's always Penthouse Pet first.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is something to be very proud of.
It is.
It's such an iconic company and such a wonderful brand. And so.
And what are you doing for them now?
Okay, so years ago, remember I told you I want to be a writer. So I
Right.
started writing for the LA Weekly. And then after doing that for a couple of years, I'm like, why aren't I writing for Penthouse? I'm a pet. I should be writing stories or a column.
Right.
So.
Because you understand that whole
genre. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they let me write a couple of stories, and then I pitched, can I have my own column? So what I did, they gave me a column, it was called Pet Confidential, and I profiled Penthouse pets past and present, and I'd go spend a day with them, shoot them, take photos of them, and then get a list. That like 20 People magazine was doing that thing, 25 things you don't know about me, and all the celebrities were doing it.
Right. Yeah.
So even as famous as you are, there's still 25 things
Exactly.
the average person doesn't know except your family and friends. So I did the same concept with Penthouse Pets and got them to reveal things about like their childhood, or they were valedictorian, or they can play flute, or whatever the fuck their list of 25 things is.
Yeah, and they like going there too, because they like explaining those experiences.
Just like what we're doing here.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So then I did that for a couple of years, and then I pitched doing Penthouse TV, so Penthouse on the red carpet. And my boss at the time, Kelly Holland, was like, go for it, since I'm a reporter and have the radio background and host background. So I started covering all kinds of movies and red carpet events and public events and stuff, and interviewing people and celebrities, and put that on Penthouse Television. So then at that point, they gave me an opportunity to have my own office.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, I have my own office. And they gave me a title. My first title was Director of Pet Projects. So that meant any pet project that the owner of the company had, I would oversee for her and help her initiate and, get done.
Right.
I also oversaw all Penthouse Pets, period. Their projects, if we were doing promotions with them, if they wanted something, if they had a problem, if they were fighting with another pet on social media, if they were missing a check, if somebody stole their key.
You were the fixer.
Yeah, their Penthouse key. Like, everyone has their key stolen by other jealous girls, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's always, some text in the middle of the night from some pet needing something. So I am available to everyone 24/7 in that capacity.
Wow.
And then a couple of years ago, we had a great production manager at Penthouse. His name's Mo, and he ended up leaving. And then Kelly threw me into that position. I'd never been a production manager before. And I was like, yeah, how hard can that be? When you are basically a production manager in porn, means you crew everybody, you cast everybody, you do all the paperwork, you do all of the props, you do all of the costumes, you do all of the food, you set everything up, you fucking do the transportation. I mean, we have a crew of, and by the way, our crews for Penthouse, we're like 11 people crew. Okay. Most porn crews are 4 people. Yeah. Wow. So we already have an enormous crew, and I already do all these things, and we still have a whole crew. Wow. So that's quite daunting. I'm also in charge of like casting new Penthouse pets, so I'm always looking for the new girls. I'm always like cruising social media, having girls refer girls. Agents always pitch me girls. We have ghosties all the time. Right. So Penthouse keeps me pretty busy, but I still have my mainstreamy stuff that I do on the side, just because the opportunities arise, like you guys, arose, and here we are. So I got a call like 5 years ago from an ex-boyfriend of mine when I was a teen model in London, and he was a teen model in London, and now he's like a big movie producer, and he asked me, because he knows I have the Rolodex of Rolodexes,
Right.
and he's British, and he said, listen, I'm making a documentary on stand-up comics, and we're going to be shooting in LA, and, you know, I'd like to bring you in, your co-producer, and you know, open your Rolodex and start booking us some comics. So it was a man named Sully McCullough, who's the producer, Daphne Wayans, who's Keenan Ivory Wayans' ex-wife,
Right.
and myself. We were the 3 producers that populated this movie, Dying Laughing.
Wow.
We interviewed, well, not we, but Paul and Lloyd, the director producers. They interviewed 150 comics all over the world, in every country, the top of the top, and narrowed it down to 50 that are in this film. The topic is very specific. It's about dying on stage, about eating it, about not doing well, about being heckled, about racism, about all the things, like why these comics, when their first experience sucked, what made them keep coming back.
Yeah.
So we have people like Jerry Seinfeld, Gary Shandling,
Wow.
Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, Jamie Foxx, Sarah Silverman, Amy Schumer. I mean, no, the list
Name a comic.
it's fucking amazing.
Wow.
So we shot it over the course of 4 years, because they would come, they'd shoot all over the world, they'd come to LA, they'd set up like a week of shoots, they'd leave again, they'd shoot all over the world. So it was like a labor of love. It took a while. It was purchased by Gravitas Ventures. It was put out in movie theaters. It was on pay-per-view for forever. It's been in movie theaters in Europe. It is amazing. So it's something I'm super proud of. I also like supervising produced, which basically oversaw the scripts and the writing for a TV show. You know, like I like to do that kind of stuff because, you know.
Because you can.
Yeah. And I've got contacts. and little known fact, guys, if you have contacts, you too can be a producer, because pretty
That's
much
what we do.
that is what a producer does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Sam, thank you so much.
yeah.
Really appreciate you being here and
Thank
being
you so
part of
much.
this. This is going to be really a special project.
I know.
think.
I hope that there is great festival outlets for this thing.
There's
and
definitely already have some asking about it. So.
I think it's great. And
Thank
then
you.
if you guys ever do a female Phantasm film, I'm just saying, Alchemy's still around.
Yes, she is.
Hey.
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 Well, you know, that's what really one of the great things about Phantasm, and this all goes back to Don Coscarelli,
Yeah.
who his mother was a huge influence on him.
Yeah.
Huge,
Yeah.
Shirley, and a very powerful woman. And he wrote powerful female characters. He wrote roles, you know, that, you know, I can't think of one Phantasm film where the females in the film were not just badass.
Yeah.
Right. Even Paula Irvine in number 2.
Oh,
She
yes.
was so sweet, but she still kicked
She
ass.
still kicked
Oh,
ass.
she kicked
Yeah.
ass. Oh yeah.
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 And those were the women that Reggie was drawn to, you know. And I just always
How
thought,
many women did you bang?
bang,
Sorry.
bang, bang.
Like
You
how
know
many
what?
how many women were you associated with in a romantical way in all of the movies?
None.
No, only me. No way.
Means your character, Reg.
No, not
Yeah.
you personally.
Oh, okay, I get it
Oh,
now.
Jesus
I
Christ.
get it now.
No, your character, you
Okay.
as Reggie.
One
Yeah.
is one per film.
Okay,
Well-
so you do hook up with one chick per film?
Yeah,
dog.
He was, you know, horn dog. You know, he really.
Like it's
you know,
hard on the road, right?
I love it. Good. Good for you.
Yeah. So, alrighty.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much again, Sam. We
Thank
really
you.
love you, and
I
so
love you.
glad to see you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, take care. There you go.
Mm.